Hi, thanks for joining us today on this Webio webinar. We've got the company of Richard Sharp. Richard is the Managing Director of the Opelo Consumer Division. And really what we're going to be covering today is the whole idea of supercharging your customer collections with automation, with AI, and really understand how Opelo have introduced this. They brought it into their whole contact strategy, how it's worked for them, the customer experience, and the areas where, say, we've identified that there can be improvements and all those type of things. So I think a really interesting conversation to be had. And Richard, thank you for your time. Much appreciated, and hopefully we'll have a good conversation in a few minutes. What I'm going to do first, though, is just really to just sort of give a bit of backdrop that actually Opelo and Webio have been working together for a little over a year now, I do believe it is. And there at the back end of last year, we went into the Credit Collections Technology Awards, and we were the winner in the Customer Engagement Solution. Again, up against some really, strong competitors, but I think bringing the whole automation, bringing a great customer experience, they were some of the reasons that we were the winner in that particular category. And we'll actually touch on some of that on, we'll walk through what we did and what we didn't do and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting, as I said already. I'm delighted to say that is an award that we've won. We have won numerous other awards with clients and on our own. If I look at our most recent one, which we're very proud of, we were in the Deloitte Technology Fast 50, and we were ranked second. So we came second overall in that for quickest growing business. So delighted, that's a really great achievement for us. And really, the whole concept of what we're going to talk about today is just really sort of understanding what Opelo have done around the whole automation. And automation on its own is great, but it's about blending also, bringing the agents in at the right time. So getting that mix between automation and humans is really important. Then being able to guide the conversations properly and being able to have that conversational design, that you have the capability to understand how the conversation is going to go. And then more importantly, identify where sometimes you may need to tweak and make small changes. And then really that capability to implement those changes is really important. And really the whole objective of this really is to ensure the business is delivering the right type of metrics and outcomes. Outcomes for the business, but also for the customers, as it should always be a win-win. It should be a win for the business, a win for the customer. And, as I say, everybody is getting something from that type of transaction, which is really important. So we're sort of going to move on to the conversation itself. And really, as I sort of made reference to earlier, Richard, it's really great to have you on today's conversation. That you're MD of the Opelo Consumer Division. Probably a good place to start would be, tell us more about Opelo, what you guys do, the type of customers. It'd be really good to get your sort of overview on that.
Sure. First of all, thanks to Mark and Webio for inviting me here today. It's going to be good to share our joint experiences of what we've gone through over the last year, and hopefully get the message across that what we're trying to achieve is a good thing, and it is achievable more than anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm Richard. I'm the MD of the Consumer Division at Opelo. Opelo have been around for just over 10 years now. We are a fast-growing consumer lending platform. We're focused on providing better outcomes, and we're kind of on a mission to unlock potential in millions of hardworking people across the UK. We do that by offering 3 product verticals. We offer unsecured loans from £2,000 to £15,000. We offer hire purchase, so car loans, and we also offer second charge mortgages. We predominantly focus on the mid to near prime market, or more importantly, what we call the new mainstream market that are no longer serviced by the banks due to having a hiccup historically. We're here to give them a very good experience moving through. We've got a current loan book around about £350 million, looking to escalate that towards £500 million, and then the goal of £1 billion over the next 12, 18, 24 months time. So great growth for us. We see a great market for us, and automation will help us get there.
Mm. And from the, it would be good to sort of get a bit of an overview of the different roles that you've done. And also, could you talk into, everybody always has a particular passion about the job that they do. You know, what would be, as you would say, what would be the thing that you're passionate about to get right to ensure that the job that you're doing is the right one and it's going to deliver the right outcomes for the business?
Sure. So, answer the first question. I've been at Opelo now for a couple of years. Previous to that, I was managing director at Everyday Loans, which is another large branch-based lender in the UK. Previous to that, I held directors' roles over Cattles PLC, worked at Bank of Ireland, and have been in the consumer lending market for about 20 years now. Makes me feel old.
Just say many years. That, you know,
a long time.
A long time. I've given up putting numbers on it.
It's true. That's a good way to go.
Yeah.
And been working at senior exec board level for probably the past 10 years. Passion, I would say it's not cliche, but it's for me, it's all about the customer. And if we get the customer experience right and we give the customer every opportunity to engage with us and the products that really fit their needs, rather than what we think their needs are, then I think everything flows from there. I think financial services suffered a lot over the last 20 years of thinking they knew better than what the customer needs, where actually a lot of the automation that I've looked at historically, it's been driven from a business need rather than a customer want. And I think there's a big difference between the two. So I'm a big believer in customer, and I have a mantra that if I'm building something or our business is building something and my mum would not know how to use it, then we need to revisit it, because the sniff test from my mum is the one that I will always go with. It's where my instinct lies. And if I can't get my mum to understand it, how can we expect others to understand it? It needs to be a barrier-free experience. And my mother, being a complete technophobe, is a good yardstick for me. So that's how I work moving forward.
I'm sure she's not on the CV, but my mum road tests all my technology.
No.
It's just assumed. It's an assumed position. It's interesting because actually, I would, and I say this over and over, and probably sometimes bore the pants of some of the people in Webio and some clients, that if you make stuff really easy for people to engage with, don't be surprised when they do it over and over. And that, you know, simple stuff, if it works, people will use it because of that very simple thing. It was nice. It was a good experience, and it got me what I wanted. So yeah, it is surprisingly how some people overcomplicate stuff, and especially when it comes to technology. Just because you can do it sometimes doesn't mean it's the right thing to do for the customer. So yeah, would absolutely agree on that one. So from sort of customer engagement, that you guys are doing stuff differently now, but traditionally, so give us a bit of a snapshot of, you know, what was the typical customer engagement activities? What were they?
I think from an Opelo perspective, I came in, like I said, a couple of years ago. Really, it was very linear, quite vanilla, as most financial services companies are, predominantly telephone, voice, a bit of SMS and email. So if a customer wanted to engage with us, really, they had to probably reach out to us rather than us reaching out to them or giving them an avenue to be able to utilise to their own choice. Obviously, that's not good enough from an experience perspective in not just my eyes, but the business's eyes as well. So I would say 95% of the engagement that Opelo had with their consumers a couple of years ago was predominantly phone.
And you moved from that and you started on sort of SMS and that whole conversational engagement. That was SMS was let's say your first digital channel. What was the tipping point? Was there one, identifiable moment? Did it sort of creep up on you over a period of time? What was the whole catalyst behind we need to do something different? Because it's a big challenge. Most companies, they're very slow to change because it works. There's no the building is on fire. They don't need to do stuff.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's the old adage: if it isn't broken, don't fix it. So it's actually, if it's not broken, you can still do something better, and you can still move forward. And it's continuous improvement, not change. And change and continuous improvement do work hand in hand. But it's how you kind of portray that to your, not just your consumer, but more importantly with technology, it's to your staff as well. And I think you need to get buy-in from your staff when you're looking at technology change, because sometimes it can be looked at, bringing all this technology, what am I going to do if all this technology is going to do this job that I've predominantly done? What actually am I going to do? So I think there's a lot, and I've learned lessons on this over the years as well, of, gone are the days of just rolling things out. We need to engage with our staff, just like we do with our consumers and our introducers, to ensure that any technology that we're looking to use is going to benefit everybody, not just the business. And I think the culture now, especially in Opelo, is technology is the way forward and is an enabler for us to do our jobs better and better serve our customers. So actually come to the end answer that I want, that are we doing everything we possibly can to serve our customers? Yes, we are. Brilliant. And our staff really understand it as well. To your point about a tipping point, definitely the pandemic. Everybody has been affected negatively by the pandemic. I have never seen so much activity via phone and email throughout the month of March last year than I did when the pandemic hit, and the FCA and the media were basically saying to everybody to take payment holidays. Obviously, we were inundated with calls.
I can imagine.
It was very frantic for the staff, very stressful for the staff. And what we've also got to think about is the mental health of our workers as well. And they were also being impacted by the pandemic, but also being impacted by the phone calls and extra stress. So it was really important that we looked at escalating our technology. Obviously, we had been in touch previous to the pandemic, and we're talking about doing some engagement tools and some conversational SMS. The pandemic really did escalate that to the fact that I think we released the first conversational chatbot within about 7 days. So for me, yes, there was a tipping point, and it was the pandemic.
And if I was to jump back to something that you said there, which I think is really important, the whole bringing the staff on the journey. It's not just everything just comes from the top down, boom, it lands on their desk and say, oh, by next Monday, this is what you do with that particular technology. Would there be one piece of wisdom that you'd share with people to say, look, make sure you do this? Is it just simply communicating, or would there be anything extra? And I'm thinking about bringing the staff along that journey. Is there anything that you'd suggest that people would do?
I think communication sounds very simple, but it's not, because it's the message of the communication that you're trying to get across. And I think it's really important that people not only understand the technology, but actually understand the reason why we're doing the technology. And over and above that, what the technology will then enable the staff to be able to do. So it's very important to engage with your frontline staff, your middle management, heads of, and understand what their pain points are and where technology can help and where it can't help. And if you do that and use working groups throughout the release of automation, you'll get the buy-in straight away, because you're delivering and addressing a pain point that the operational staff already have by the way of bringing out the technology and getting them involved. I think I've been parts of lots of businesses where we've made decisions at a high level and rolled them out, and they haven't been the right ones because we haven't got engaged with staff enough. And I think by understanding what their needs are, as well as the consumer, that then gives you the culture of continuous improvement, both in your business and experience of your business as well. I think it's key. So really, it will be communication, but there's a specific way that you need to do it. You know, just sending an email, we're going to do this. That's not what I would suggest anybody does. I think it's we're talking about engagement. You need to engage with your own people as well. And sometimes that gets missed. You know, you spend so much time with the customer that sometimes you do forget about the staff. Now, so having all that said, if you don't treat your staff, you know, one of the big things the FCA comes around with is about treating customers fairly. Quite rightly so. It's a massive mantra that we have to treat customers fairly. But actually, take that a step back. If you don't treat your staff fairly, the customers won't get treated fairly either. So whatever we do with our staff, we just got to communicate openly and honestly. And there's so many great ideas that come from all levels that they need to be heard, listened to, and acted upon when needed.
Yeah, I'd agree, because it's funny. I would see where implementations would be done like that, other times not so. And I think actually there's a lot of learning to be gained from people who are at the coalface every day, managing those conversations. It's incredible the really valuable feedback that sometimes, you know, people who aren't doing that job would miss. So yeah, I would absolutely agree. It's quite an interesting, I just say, treating your staff fairly as much as customers. It's a whole culture thing, which actually I think it's a win-win then for everybody involved, which is I think definitely the right way to go. So did you clearly we've mentioned sort of COVID being that, let's say, the point where, right, we need to do something, and you could say it was the catalyst. Did you realize automation would play such a big part in the whole contact strategy? And was your vision maybe, or was it, I don't know, was it out of sync with, say, other people within the business? Because you'll always have different people who'll have, and I've come across it, somebody, a huge advocate, others, oh, we don't know, will customers like it, and stuff like that. It's just the normal dynamics of any business. So was that the experience that you had?
Yeah, I think that goes back to how you present it. And it also goes back to it being a blend as well, right? Yep. So I think a lot of businesses have gone full throttle on automation, of 100% automation, and others have done none at all. And if I take Opelo, we are doing it in stages, and we're doing it as a blend. And I think the answer is, if you want to go 100%, then that's fine. But I think there's challenges within that. I think the culture of the business needs to be that people understand why you're doing what you're doing, and that actually this is being done for the better of the customer and the better of our staff. And the trick is blending it. There's always going to be a place for the voice. There always will be. That we're never going to get away from it. But what we can do is make more time for the voice when it really matters. And that means that we treat our customers even better. And that in turn means that we'll treat the staff even better, because we're going to give them more time to actually get the right outcomes for our customers, rather than thinking, oh, I've got X amount of calls backed up, I've got to get through this call to get onto the next one.
Yeah,
that's where this type of technology, or new technology, will really help us. And that's always been my view. I've always looked at automation as value add and continuous improvement upon what you've already got, rather than replacing what you have. And it's that blend of the two. So moving forward, I don't think you'll ever not have a communication channel. I definitely won't. In our business, we will always have as many channels open to a customer and staff as we possibly can. Then it comes down to customer choice. Now, you're never going to be able to service every customer's choice, but if we have social, email, phone, chatbots, SMS, there's not much more we can offer a consumer over and above that. And you're probably hitting 99% of the mark. Then it comes down to customer choice, and then that will drive your strategies moving forward based on how your customer wants to interact with you, rather than us thinking, well, they want to interact that way. So I think it's got a lot of good to it, but it's definitely as a continuous improvement and an enhancement on what we have today.
And when you talk about customer engagement, clearly you said that around March time, like the phone lines melted, I'd say, and you nearly look back at it and you kind of go, how did people get through? It was just madness. I think we're all through that now, that we've scaled up to meet those challenges. But no, I think every business like your own was in that. So the customer engagement with the automation, I'd love to hear a bit more about, the type of the experience, the percentage engagement, the journey itself. What was the first role that we looked at was all around helping customers reset if they had a loan or going on a freeze and stuff. We'd love to hear about, what was the, how all that hung together from your perspective. What did you see, and what customers' reaction to it all was?
Yeah, sure. So as every other person in financial services, you've already said it, our phone lines melted second week of March, third week of March, when the announcements were made, with consumers ringing in, not really knowing what they could do, what they couldn't do. And the whole payment holiday piece came up, which was never a thing before.
Yeah.
We acted very, very quickly because we couldn't see an end to it. It was just going to continue happening. And what happens, everybody will know, once you start getting an influx of inbound calls and you can't address them all, the same people ring more than once, which makes it just triplicates the issue, quadruples the issue. So we had to look at something else. As we were already talking to you, so we reached out and said, right, we need to build some form of conversational SMS that we can send out to these customers and ask them whether they want a payment holiday within the rule set that we've got. Obviously, back then, there was no rules either. There was just media coverage of, oh, you can take a payment holiday for your mortgage. Obviously, we did that in our second mortgage division. We knew what the rules were, but there was no rules effectively for hire purchase or for unsecured lending. So we as a business made a very proactive decision to mirror what we were doing on mortgages for all of our products, just to give that proper experience to a customer, rather than saying, oh, you've got to wait for what the FCA say. That's not a good customer experience. So let's just mirror what we've already done. So I think it was within about 7 to 10 days we had built the chatbot with yourselves. And probably a week after launch of it, well, actually, the first day we launched it, we spent a long time working out the flow and the decision trees of where people go and what people do. I needed it to be fully auditable. I needed to be able to prove that it was the right thing for the customer to do and be able to link that to the account. So we did all of that. And on the relaunch, which was a really exciting go live, I think the second person that used a chatbot within about 2 minutes of it being sent back a reply that we'd not ever considered would be a reply, which, they say you learn all the time, and you definitely do. And I think we came straight back to Webio, going, right, this has happened. We need to do something about this. Yeah. And I think within the first week, I think we changed the bot about 8 to 10 times, with these weird and wonderful replies coming back from your great customer base that you could never ever think would ever happen. But actually what that did over that period of time, it reduced our call waiting times by 85%, wow, which is a huge amount. Yeah. And to enable a payment holiday over the phone, it was taking us about 20 minutes with all of the questioning that we had to do with the consumer to ensure it was the right choice, and how they'd been affected by the pandemic. On the bot, the customer themselves could do that within about 2 to 3 minutes. So it's a massive process enhancement that we made. Response rates to the bot were just blew my head away. I never thought that we'd get the response that we got from our consumers. Since we've launched it, the response rate through that, if I think about just the payment holidays, it was about 3 times greater than what we would have got from our our speak tos. And bearing in mind, we were finding it, if we just had the phone, we were finding it so difficult to make any outbound because of the inbound. So it was definitely a crescendo of issues that all hit us at one time. And had we not had the bot, I don't honestly know how we would have coped with it without having customers making a lot of complaints. And we turned that around for consumers saying to us throughout the period of that time how well we were treating the consumer, because we not only used it for the initial I need a payment holiday, we actually used it as a keeping in touch mechanism throughout the period of the payment holiday as well. We made a decision as a business that we wanted to make sure our consumers knew that we were there to help them, not just give them a payment holiday, leave it 3 months and then expect them to go from zero to a £200 payment, because that will cause consumers payment shock. Yep. So we utilised the bots and they were enhanced as well to keep in touch with our customers to ensure, are you still in the same situation? Is there anything we can help you with? And it completely changed the way that we engage with our consumer base just because of the pandemic, which is a huge once in a lifetime event. But actually, this output of it is positive, that our consumers now have got a really good way that they like to deal with us on. And we are now moving forward with that in lots of other ways, as you know.
Yeah.
But it was transformational. It was that big. It was transformational for us.
And that shift in customer behaviour, are you seeing that isolated to one area, or are you seeing it manifest itself in any other parts of the business? Just in general, it'd be an interesting observation if it is.
So I think that the behaviour's always been there. It's just that we've not had the outlet for it, to be quite honest. And I think consumers now, we've got to look at how we ourselves engage with technology. I can't remember the last time I went to the bank. I don't need to. I can't remember the last time I spoke to somebody on the phone unless I couldn't get it dealt with via a live chat, via a text, via a conversational SMS. My dealings with voice are as a last resort. However, if that last resort wasn't there, I would be very, very annoyed. And that goes back to I've got my mum sniff test from a process perspective, but I've also got how do I engage with my businesses that in my personal life. We need to have that in our own business as well, right? And that's about everybody needs to be looking at that way. I think it works incredibly well on a collections environment, especially. But also we're looking at utilising it from an originations as well now for acquisitions. And I think we're probably going to be one of the few businesses that actually will use it to engage with our introducers. Obviously, we've got a second mortgage division and our car finance division. Now, they rely very heavily on brokered business, where the broker packages all, especially the mortgages, brokers package all the business for us. This is a great tool for the quick Q&As that we can have rather than phones. We can just do it via a transactional chatbot, and that revolutionises that way of working moving forward. So I think it's got a place everywhere, but not for everything.
Yeah. And the agents themselves, have they, sometimes, it'll be embraced fully. Other times there's always, not sure about that, and there's a bit of reluctance. Have the agents within the business, has it been a positive experience for them?
Yeah, definitely so. I think it goes back to, we kept them engaged in what we were doing and how we wanted it to work. We'd already had the conversations prior to the pandemic about what we were looking at doing. And I think as soon as we released the chatbots, I think there was a bit of skepticism from them prior to launch.
Yeah.
Saying, there's no way it's going to have any impact. Okay, fine, but we've got to give it a go. Don't ever be the person that sits there in 6 months' time going, what if? Let's just do it and see what the impact is. So as soon as we launched that chatbot, and I think within the first hour, we'd had a 70% response rate on what we'd sent from a payment holiday perspective. And because the collection staff were seeing those coming in, instantly the inbounds dropped off and they could see the benefit immediately to them and the customer of that piece of technology. So I think it answered its own question because they could see it there and then, and that's made it a lot easier now for us to go, okay. And it made me laugh that we've got our whole business now. Everybody wants to look at chatbots for everything. And if I think about it 18 months ago, well, why would we want to do that? So that's brilliant that's changed, and the people see the value in that type of technology and utilizing that type of technology. But again, it's not got a place everywhere. We need to be careful in where we use it, and we need to be, why do we want to use it and what are we trying to achieve and what's the benefit, rather than let's just automate everything, because especially in collections, you just can't do it. It's impossible. You always need that human there to be able to deal with that consumer whose behavior is, I don't understand, I need more information, please can I speak to somebody? We've done really well, I think, as a business at Opelo, where we've blended the human touch with the technology really well, and that's the way that we're going to continue moving forward.
And would you see that model as best practice across the board? Because, you know, collections, they're difficult, they're complex conversations, sometimes with people in, I'm going to say, unusual circumstances with a range of other factors that may be at play. Would you see that as the, let's say, just the go-to, I'm going to call it the gold standard?
I think so, yeah. I think back to the years that I've done offshoring in India in previous lives. And I think of it like that. We offshored very transactional tasks to India, where there was a yes or no, it was binary. Let's push all those across. Let's keep the complicated stuff with the experts. And to be honest, I don't think that approach is any different to a chatbot than an offshore call center. Let's automate the stuff that we can, that's easy, that we know, to release the time for the agents to spend speaking to the customers that they really need to speak to. It gives them more time to spend with them, which gives better quality outcomes, because we're really delving and investigating into the customer. I'm not saying we don't do that without the chatbots, but we will definitely be able to do it a lot better moving forward with them, because we would have alleviated that pressure on the inbound and outbound flows, because we will probably be dealing with a third, 2/3 of it via the chatbot.
Gotcha. I'm fascinated. I jotted down some of the numbers as you were, that 85% drop in call waiting time, transformational, I'd say, on the business. It's interesting though. If it was taking me 20 minutes on the phone and I could do it on the chatbot within 2 to 3 minutes, as a customer, I'm going to appreciate 2 to 3 minutes of effort and investment versus 20. So yeah, it's when you look at it in those even simple terms, strip away, just simple question, would you prefer to spend 20 minutes or 3 minutes doing this? Regardless of the channel, it's actually 3 minutes that's going to win every time. So what's your thoughts about the whole sort of digital journey? People always, and it's one of these, buzzwords that sometimes, the analysts come up with, and they get paid lots of money to come up with new terms for the same thing, just done over and over. But the whole customer digital journey and stuff like that, give us your read on what you think of it, and as importantly, are Opelo, and I think they are, going down that road themselves?
Yeah, so digital is a way forward, definitely. And I think digital has many words. You mentioned, mentioned it earlier about calling it different things. You keep calling omni-channel journeys. I've never seen one that works personally. It's just a word that's out there. I think from an Opelo perspective, what we're concentrating on is the blend again. If I look at it from an end-to-end, and when I say end-to-end, I mean acquisition and origination all the way through to debt sale.
Yep.
There's parts of that we can digitize, and we should do, because it gives customers a better experience. You hit the nail on the head a minute ago with it's time. Time's precious for everybody. Time's precious for a customer. It's precious for us. we need to limit that as much as we possibly can. So we can digitize what we can that makes sense, that the customer wants us to, but you're always going to have that element of not being able to digitize something, or you can try to digitize it, but you put in a human touch point in that process as well. So if you try to digitize a whole journey end to end, you can do on originations, and we're just in the process of doing that. But the uniqueness that we want to do there is have the ability to be able to speak to that customer should they want to do so. And I think a lot of businesses have forgotten about that. It's digital or phone, not a blend of.
Yeah.
The way Opelo will work, it's a bit like if we think about 20 years ago, you used to go to the bank and you used to speak to a bank manager about all of your stuff. It was a great experience because you got what you wanted, but you didn't like going there to park your car. It took you ages to walk to the bank. Then you had to wait to sit there. Yeah. Now, if you can recreate that via technology and then a human at the very end of it, I think you've hit the nail on the head. So that's what Opelo's trying to create. Is it's technology with the human touch is the best way that I can describe it. It is digital, but digital where we need, and we don't force customers to use it if they don't wish to. They can speak to somebody if they want to, and that's one of our USPs, that we do have skilled agents across our business, both in underwriting, collections, and acquisitions, that can speak to customers very, very concisely and give them the help that they need, as well as the technology edge as well. So I think it's a blend, Mark, to be honest, and I wouldn't particularly want to go 100% automation, because I don't believe you'll serve 100% of the customers that you'll be able to.
No, I'd agree with you. And I see it myself, where sometimes people, they rush too quickly into trying to automate everything. And that whole conversational design, and I think you mentioned it earlier about designing a journey, a conversation flow, how people react to different things. You will get, and you've seen it already yourself, the weirdest responses because you just don't plan them. And it's about that exception management. How do you deal with when you get something that, and I can't even script one now, but what happens if? And I think you're absolutely right, that sort of blending in, because humans, we are so adaptable at being able to, and as you quite rightly say, agents, you've put a lot of time and effort in and resource to train an agent. They've had the experience of all those conversations with clients. They're best placed to deal with those, I'm going to call them the unusual instances that will always arise. So yeah, I would have your customers, has there been any overt feedback on the sort of the addition of this channel? Has there been any sort of positive or negative that customers feedback to say this is a good experience?
Yeah, so we had a lot of feedback during the payment holiday, well, throughout last year really, as it ended up, and virtually every piece of feedback around the chatbots that we used and the approach with our keeping in touch calls, the showing that we actually cared about the customers, that came back, fed back to us very positively, to the extent that a lot of our customers saying that we were one of the only lenders that had contacted them after the event of a payment holiday, making sure that, did you realise, Mr. Customer, in a couple of months you're going to come off it? Is that the right thing? Is there anything we can help you with? And I think, a lot of the big banks, just from a sheer scale perspective, just were give the holiday and then let's not talk to anybody. Now, I don't personally think that's the right thing. So from a feedback perspective, we didn't actually have any negativity on that at all. I think probably the negativity was the fact that we hadn't automated a lot of what we want to moving forward, and the customers are probably asking for that as well.
Yeah.
But it was a great tool to keep in touch with customers, and it's been a very trying time for customers. It's been stressful, and I think it's good for them to know that there's a lender there, as a lender ourselves, that we care about our customers and we want to make sure we're doing the right things by them. And the only way we can do that is by keeping in touch with them. If you don't keep in touch with them, don't know what's happening. So I think it was really positive.
Yeah. And from the, the unintended consequences, has there been anything sort of even across the business that you've noticed from, say, things that you didn't plan, but actually they're now apparent, they're there, positive or negative, that from the addition of the channels that you've done over the past, say, 12 months?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing is needing to build out our marketing analytics team, point one, to ensure that we're using the right language. All well and good having the ability to have a transactional SMS in a chatbot, but the language that you use is key in the message that you want to get across.
Yeah.
So we've invested in more full-time employees to help with that.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at building now a fully automated virtual assistant that will help all of our customers throughout the whole journey. So we've now got a project that's been spun up within the business that is running that. I want our business is called Opelo. We're going to have a virtual assistant called Loop, which is an anagram of Opelo, which is going to be speaking to customers all of the time, at any part of their journey, throughout the whole life cycle. If you'd asked me a year and a half ago, is that what I'll be doing in February 2021, I would have said, you're mental. No, why would we want to do that?
Yeah.
So it's created a department. It's created a lot of buzz in the business as well. And it's had a lot of touch points with people. And I think it's opened people's vision as well to the art of the possible, for want of a better word. And I'm a massive one for, if you never try it, you never know. So I will try everything we possibly can in our business to get that nailed. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by having people to do it. The transactions and the conversational flows, they don't build themselves, as we well know, Mark. They take hours and hours.
Yeah. And
even when you think you've nailed it, the third reply you get blows that all apart.
Yeah.
So we need now to have that department in our business, which will probably end up becoming an AI, machine learning, NLP division moving forward.
Yeah.
Because we've got a lot of data now on how people have interacted with us. And it's about looking at, well, why did they reply that? What did we send? How did we send it?
Yeah.
And did that drive the reply? And I think that's now where we're moving to, is really starting to look at the language and the words and how you use it. And I think that is the next step on the journey to, people look at AI and think, oh, it's scary. But actually, when you're doing linguistic programming and stuff like that, it's really interesting to elicit the response that you really need. And it gives you a better product moving forward. And that's probably, it's not unintended consequence, but it's definitely a consequence of it, on a very, very positive part, though.
I think, and you're right, it's probably an unintended consequence, but actually, what I see where people are getting the benefits, and it's the next natural step. You've talked about earlier that continuous improvement, that continuous sort of moving forward. It is a case of where we're actually about to launch a significant upgrade on our propensity engine. And the whole idea there is that companies like yourself, you have lots and lots of data on customer conversations. How do you and how can you elicit insights from that? Because otherwise you're just looking at, lots of data that actually, can't be used fully. So I think you're absolutely right. And you're right also that this doesn't happen overnight. Like, as a business, by the sounds of things, you're investing in the right type of people, in the right type of things to be doing, because that will, I'd have to say, you're ahead of most others in the marketplace, and that's certainly, how you'd keep, ahead of others. SMS was where, are there any other sort of immediate channels that you see across the business saying that this would be where we can see additional channels being added? I think you mentioned earlier that you've a few in mind. Are there any other ones in the near future that you would see? That's where we'll launch.
Yeah, definitely. WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. I think they're going to be pretty. I think WhatsApp, especially if I look at the demographic of our customer base and the people that use the WhatsApp channel,
Yeah.
it would serve very well. I think it comes with its challenges, and we need to work and look at what exactly we want to put through that. But that's the next step for us, alongside the AI. And I think also, just going back to something you said about the staff and that, for those that haven't started their kind of transactional conversation SMS journey, it's really important that you've kind of already got the flows there by the really good staff that we all have. You know, our staff are absolutely brilliant at what they do, and all we've done is use what they already do into a decision tree to enable us to have some transactional SMSs moving forward. So I think if anybody thinks there's a barrier, there's probably not. It's just look at the staff that you've already got. They're already doing what you need, and it's just pushing that information into the transactional bot itself. But I think WhatsApp is probably going to be the biggest one, Mark, I think, moving forward. But a blend of WhatsApp and Messenger. I think those seem to be the big ones moving forward right now for us.
Yeah, yeah. I'd actually, on that, just share what we see our clients. WhatsApp, I think everybody is looking at SMS and WhatsApp, and they think they're exactly the same. Actually, they are significantly different, and I think the stats back that up. We see the WhatsApp as a channel is 5 times more volume, if I was to use the dreadful English, but there's 5 times more volume inbound on WhatsApp when you compare the same type of usage on SMS. Just WhatsApp seems to be a channel where customers are happy to engage, and even then the likes of pictures of a passport or something like that, where you need, it does open up quite a range of capability within the conversation. So we've certainly seen, and even from our own business, over the past 12 months, we've seen a 20% growth month on month on WhatsApp usage. So I would absolutely agree that would be a place where, as I say, we're seeing a lot of growth in that. So I'm just conscious of the time. You mentioned earlier on the stats and the metrics and what have you, that the response rate that you got from the messaging was nearly 3 times larger than the dialer. How do are there any plans or what's the plan to how to blend those two? You say dialer is an agent, you're never going to get rid of them, but is there, how do where's the measure of how much of one versus the other? How do you plan that? Because it's a difficult one.
Yeah, so the way that we've done that is by looking at the stage of arrears the customers are at. Yeah. So you've got early arrears, mid arrears, and late arrears. Obviously, customers that are going into your late arrears are basically the ones that you're not contacting. And, just ringing that customer continually at different times of the day is clearly, if they're not going to pick up the phone, they're not going to pick up the phone. Yeah. So we've utilised the chatbots on our late bucket arrears, and we've had phenomenal results of communication utilising it, to the point that we've probably had on those buckets round about a 20% response rate through the chatbots against probably 0 from a phone call. And whether that's to be more forbearance, but it's actually instigated the conversation to probably make a phone call, because you need to speak to those customers. Yeah. And that's the difference. It's not necessarily conducting all of your experience through that channel. It's just reaching out again and getting the customer comfortable that we're here to help. That's what we are. And we all know that consumers do stick their head in the sand. They're embarrassed about being in the situation they're in. They don't want to speak to people. So sometimes sending the bot out, people will engage with it because they can engage with it all of the time. Even if they're at work, you are not going to take a phone call if you know you're in arrears from a phone number that you think may be your lender. You just won't do it because you're sat next to everybody.
Colleagues, friends, and family sometimes,
It's intrusive at the end of the day. Yeah. The chatbot's not. So even if we can use that, and we've used it very well in later arrears to regain communication, it puts the customer back in control. because they're saying, oh, well, when would you like a call? Oh, 4 o'clock. And then your contact rates are vastly higher on that segment of customers because of the engagement by the chatbot. So it's looking at your segments of your customers and also looking at your behaviors of your customers and have they interacted with the channel before? If they have, the last interaction we had with them was via the chatbot, pointless ringing them again, try and get them in with the chatbot. So it's about segmenting. The data on this is key. Segmentation of your data, the behavior of the customer, along with where they are in their life cycle with you. Those 3 elements will tell you whether you need to use the bot or not. And I also think there's a lot of let's just try it and see as well, because there's not a map for this stuff. It's what you think right. But you know, we're going to do some things a little bit differently at Opelo. We're going to do some consumer forums and ask them themselves, where would they think a bot would make sense? Where wouldn't it make sense? Where are they comfortable using one? And we need to start gathering that type of information, because it's great for us as professionals in what we do, trying to drive this forward. It's clearly a great channel, but if we can get customers really telling us what they want as well, it will only be a greater channel.
Yeah. Richard, I'm going to thank you for your time today. It was fascinating, the conversation. To be honest, I could spend another hour. I know you don't have it and diaries won't allow, but genuinely, it is brilliant. The insights that you've shared today, I think, would be valuable for every business, either that have started on this journey, that haven't started on the journey, or are some way into it. So thank you for today. Really appreciate your time. Everybody is going to get a lot from today's conversation.
No, thanks for having me, and thank you for all your help from Webio as well, because we wouldn't have got to where we are without the professional help and the timely help as well. So thank you very much for that.
No, listen, much appreciated. Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.